I've written a book entitled Jerusalem in the Quran, in which I'm attempting now to explain an interpretation of the word of the Prophet, Allah's blessings be upon him, concerning these events which are taking place now in the world, concrete events which cry out for an explanation. Is the methodology that I'm using, the interpretation of religious symbolism, an accepted methodology? This debate is now taking place in our camp, but we're dying to hear from you.
They watched events happening and they interpreted them. But the interpretation was not of predetermined. It wasn't determinism. It was seeing forces at work in which good and evil, when Israel chose to be unjust, then the prophet would say, if you go that way, it will lead to loss of life and destruction. You will be able to go to exile, you will lose the land, or whatever it was. If you return to God, the events will change. So it was not determined, it was always open-ended, but around an instinctive, prophetic instinct that listened to God and said, if we walk in God's way, this is how it will work. If we go another way, this is how it's going to work. Now, that's how I would come at modern events. Not to just simply say, well, here, I'm using now the Bible. I mean, there are those Christians who believe that the way you work out a doctrine about the end times is to simply put a whole lot of text together and then draw up a map for the future. Now, I think many scholars, and I don't class myself as a scholar, but I would agree with them, that is not the way the Bible is meant to be interpreted. I don't think that we're working with prediction. I don't think we're working with determinism. I think we're working with the kind of things that God gives us, the tools where we can listen, we would say, to the Spirit. And when you listen to the Spirit, then you hear what God's saying and where it's actually going to go.
I agree with you that if you are imprisoned with the word and you want to put the words together to form a map, you can be misguided and mistaken. I agree with you entirely because our Prophet, Allah's blessings be upon him, has described the world of the Antichrist as one in which appearance and reality are completely opposite to each other. And he said, beware of the last age, because there will be great liars, people telling monstrous lies, so that appearance and reality are opposite to each other. Things are not what they appear to be. And he had a prayer, a lovely prayer. He said, "O Allah, show me things as they are," in parentheses, that I might not be deceived by what they appear to be. It is not the external form of the words, but the internal reality. And we need, therefore, an epistemology to deal with an age of awesome deception. The Quran speaks with almost the same words as the Bible. If I'm wrong, you can correct me. The Quran says that there are people who have eyes and yet they do not see. He's shaking his head already. It's there in the Bible. They have ears and yet they do not hear. They have hearts and yet they do not understand. And such people are just like cattle. Even with a PhD from MIT, yes, it's just like cattle. Rather, they're more misguided than cattle. When it speaks of a people who have eyes and yet they cannot see, it says it's not these eyes we're talking about. It's this eye, the internal eye. And now comes this very famous statement concerning the Antichrist, about which we are still fighting in Islam. Dajjal sees with his left eye. He is blind in the right eye. It looks like a bulging grape. But your Lord is not one eye. We have people who are waiting for a one-eyed man. It wasn't Nelson, Lord Nelson. It wasn't Nelson.
Don't blame him on me.
It wasn't Moshe Dayan. Moshe Dayan was a great general. Because they interpret it literally. We on this side of the fence, in Islam, who recognize this as religious symbolism, we say no, this is an epistemological problem. The left eye symbolizes external sight and therefore knowledge externally acquired. The blind right eye symbolizes internal blindness and therefore an incapacity to receive knowledge internally.
Have we lost our capacity to gain knowledge internally? Do we depend completely on external sight? Have we learned to embody the very philosophy of Dajjal?